You are live now.
Thank you. Okay, good evening, everyone. I call this meeting to order at 7:01 p.m., Thursday, December 15th, 2022. So, first is our roll call. Is member Eileen Leahy present?
Present.
Great. Is member Debbie Yasik present?
Present.
Fantastic. Okay, and Chair Smith Brown is also here. Keanu is present. Thank you. I don't believe there were any comments submitted, so we will not go over any comments. Is there a motion, though, to approve of our minutes? We did look those over. Is there a motion to approve of these minutes?
Yes,
Okay, Debbie.
I motion that the minutes of November are approved.
Okay, yes.
November 17th.
Great. Okay, is
They'll
there a
be
second?
approved.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor? That is
Aye.
awesome. Aye. Thank you. We're now going to move forward to discussion. Prime piece on our agenda is our Board of Supervisors of Elections Task Force. All right. So are there any thoughts? I do want to thank you, Regina, Madam City Clerk, for sharing with us the applications that have already come through. I have looked those over, and I look forward to getting the last bit in these final 13 days. Did you have any updates that you'd like to share with us on that matter before I ask our members?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Did anyone, Eileen or Debbie, did you have any thoughts on our applications as they stand, or any thoughts on just the task force now that it's in the motion and we have our deadline the 28th? Thank you to the city for sharing that out as well in the press release a couple times, and then also in that graphic. I will be sharing personally within the next week. I'll be putting out the press release and that graphic to make sure that we can get any final persons out there who may be interested.
Well, one question I had was, would you like me to contact Mitchell Stevenson and ask her to put some more information out again?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I was actually I was gonna ask if I had a couple of questions that I wanted to ask for today. I wanted to ask about if there was a way that we could get it shared again, the press release and everything, if we could just circulate at least one more time, since it is in 2 weeks. And I also wanted to ask if it was sent. I know the city council members, they also received this. Did we send anything to them? And I was going to ask, if not, I wouldn't mind sharing. Sending
I'll
an
check
email.
with Mitchell. I think they received it because I know I got it from my alderwoman.
Okay, that's what. Okay.
So, but I'll check.
Okay, great.
All right, so we have 7 in so far, and there's 13 days left. Of course, it is a busy time of year, but it wouldn't hurt to do another push.
Right. I know of 4 people that are talking about putting in applying.
Okay.
So
the CRC had 9 members. Eileen, you as one of those. Did you send it out to the other 8?
Madam Clerk.
Can I just say, for clarification purposes, can we not use acronyms because the public doesn't know what a CRC is? I don't know what it is either.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
the Charter Review Commission. And I guess Regina could send it out, or Eileen. Did those other 8 members of the Charter Review Commission get us a separate notice of this, since it's going to be working on their work?
well, no, to the one question, no. To the second question, it's really, I know that you've been involved with the Charter Revision Commission work. It's not, there's only 2 components of the Charter Revision Commission that this is even addressing. So
Okay.
I don't, we can send it out. There weren't people on that group that necessarily had election experience. We certainly could send it out specifically to them. I mean, that would be something if Regina could do.
Yeah, Madam Clerk, did you have a thought?
I just wanted to say that the Charter Revision Commission did their work. They're no longer a commission.
Right.
So
Just to put that out there. They're done. They do their work. They're done. Your committee is going to do their work, and then they're done.
Right. And
FYI.
this is part of their work, and I know they're done, but if you have the contact information for them, whether it be Eileen who was on it or you, it just would be a nice gesture to make sure they are included.
Yes, yes, Claire.
I'll be happy to take care of that. And Ms. Raftovich, she's the boards and commissions administrator. We could ask her to send them the information.
Thank you very perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
And I know, wasn't there some type of, maybe there wasn't, but a task force focusing on elections or some type of board or something that happened? This was maybe even before the Charter Review Commission. Was it ever really any, maybe under Josh Cohen, I believe?
It's an ad hoc elections committee that was formed after the 2013 13 election.
Okay, so even if it's anyone that you may think, I know you're familiar with it. So if there's anyone there that you may think, and we do want new persons, and we want to, you know, diversify a little bit more as we see. But
Right.
yeah, even if we just shared. Okay, so we have, of course, we're still circling in our network. I'm not sure if we sent it to any of the central committees. If anyone sent it to, or if we shared it with any of the chair of the central committee. Okay, so the president, okay, you shared with the central committee.
Yeah.
Okay, and I also was going to ask if anyone would like for me, because I know there's some other organizations we could just reach out to, like Black Women Vote or Black Girls Vote. I know that maybe they would be interested. I know there's some persons in Baltimore that may have some input. We definitely want to make sure that we're including all groups. So even if
There's
I was
nothing stopping us from talking.
Yeah, I was gonna. Is that
Nothing
okay?
stopping us from talking to people. So we've said that in the past and
Exactly.
reaching out. So
Okay, so I'm gonna be doing that this next week. Any other thoughts or questions on the task force?
I think it's interesting to note of the 7 that we have 1 Republican, 2 unaffiliated, and 4 Democrats. Of those 7, 5 have experience in elections, 2 do not. Again, we've made that kind of a prerequisite to have experience. I've had some people talk to me about not necessarily wanting to be on the task force, but willing to do some work for the task force or talk about their areas of expertise. So I think that would be helpful. So again, it would be helpful to, you know, to get some other people. I think also of the 7, 6 are city residents and 1 is not.
I actually thought 3 were not. I mean, one person, his address is way out of the city, but then he said he was city.
It's an error.
Which part?
The out of the city. He lives in the city.
Well, why'd he put another
Because
address?
he made a mistake on his resume. He made a mistake on the application. Yeah.
That's weird.
So.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, then I thought I saw 2 others. I know another one was out. I don't know, I saved them, but yeah, I just kind of ran through them.
So I was also going to ask, I know that we're just basing this off of applications, and is that all we're going to base it on? Are we ever going to, I know we have a very short time crunch to choose our members and submit that to the mayor for his overview, but are there any ways, or should we look into talking with them or meeting, or are we just going to base it off the application and the resume that they have? Is it any thoughts on that?
Well, in our discussions about the process, we haven't included interviews, so.
Yeah, not necessarily an interview, but more, well, kind of, but not really. More so just an opportunity for us to know who we're choosing outside of just the application and the resume. And we don't have to. I just have been thinking about that to see what y'all's thoughts were on that. And if that would even, if we even have the time permitted to do it.
So once we look at it, we tried to make the application and our questions specific to our needs, but once the deadline's closed and we look at them, if we're full of questions, or if our questions weren't correct, we would then need another way to go to the candidates, whether in person or Zoom, whatever we can work out.
Okay.
Right.
I mean, we could look at that. I'd be cautious. I think perhaps this discussion should have occurred when we were planning the process.
I recall, I think I may have brought it up, talking with them.
I think you may have also, and we did move forward in that direction. So, I mean, it does make it a little bit more extended. So, I mean, we can certainly look at it and think of it, but that's where we are right now, is that we're not particularly doing interviews.
Okay. So yeah, so as we get these last applications, maybe it'll be just helpful for us to see the people and their smiles and things. We'll figure that out then as we get a little closer. And if there aren't any other thoughts, though, we can move on forward. And I don't think there needs to be any motion or anything or any movements here. I mean, everything is just, we're waiting until this 28th comes by. I know we did discuss meeting in person after this to go through did we discuss that? Meeting in person? Okay, so we'll just be doing this.
But
Okay, so once we get everything, and so at our meeting after that is when we'll decide and share with one another. That's what I'm figuring out. After the application is shot, I know the timeline state will be submitting those names.
Right now, we're scheduled for our January meeting to have a closed session to discuss the applications.
Okay, that's what
that's what's on our, again, things can be changed, but that's what's on the plan for right now. Yeah.
Right.
So Regina and Ashley, is there a procedure we have to follow for the closed session?
Yes, ma'am. There's a form that needs to be filled out by the chair, Keanu. So I'll send that to you, the form, and then it has to be reviewed by Ashley because she's your attorney. And we will just set it up and advertise that you're going to be holding a closed session. I just want to let you know that agenda is going to say that you're having your regular meeting. The closed session will be an item on your agenda.
Yep.
So
Okay,
if you have any business, you do your closed session first, and then you can go into your open session if you need to.
Okay, great. So, and so in that moment, what if so in the moment when we're going over all the application, we'll say, you know what, let's just choose our 5. We can open it back up and share, or would that too be private? So we can just open back up. Okay, everyone, we've selected our 5. Okay, and we'll go from there. Okay,
Yeah, I'll provide you with the instructions for the closed session, and I'll tell you how to be in the closed session and exit the closed session. And Ashley will be there.
Thank you.
And there was a question from one of the applicants, which was, will the nominees be notified before it goes to the mayor? So again, that kind of falls into, are we going to announce this before we send it to the mayor?
Right. Well, the thing is that the mayor is not obligated to choose who we selected. So maybe we can at least, because do we want to put him in a place where we're putting out there our choices and then he's denying? That's actually a good point. We got to think about it.
Well, there's 2 things. One is, are we going to notify the nominees before they go to the mayor, which also begs if they're not chosen. So we can say yes or no, but if we want to answer the person, I mean, I personally am kind of like, I could go either way. I don't know if there's anything in terms of the procedure from Regina or Ashley's standpoint that would lean us in either direction.
If you plan to make the announcement, it probably needs to be an agenda item, or at least an optional agenda item, so that people know that that's going to happen at the meeting. And if you change your mind, you can always say, this is on the agenda, but we're just not going to do it tonight. I'd rather do that than not have it on the agenda and you do it on the spot, because at least that way you put people on notice that it could go out there. I don't know, maybe before the agenda goes out, maybe discuss it with the mayor's office to see how they would like to proceed.
Okay.
I mean, you're obviously you're welcome to do whatever, but if you want to coordinate, you can see what the mayor's office thinks.
How was it done when we were appointed, or when others are appointed? Because the mayor and council always have the last say when they have a choice.
Generally, it's the mayor nominating them, so he's not a
This is different.
body, so he's not making the decision, and he doesn't have to make it in a public forum. So this is more of an unusual.
Okay.
Okay, Madam
Do we have to make it in a public forum?
No. Not
Well, I would
necessarily.
say, are you okay with adding it to our?
The only thing you would need to say in the public forum is, we've met in closed session, we've decided on our nominees, and we're presenting them to the mayor.
Okay. Is that
Exactly.
all right?
You'd
Yeah.
at least have to do that on the record. You don't have to say the names.
The names are. Well, do you mind adding that then to our agenda for our closed session, if that's all right? Just to be on this, just in case we do.
Yeah, because you would come out of closed session and open in session, say, we've finished our closed session, we've made our
Selected five.
selections, we'll be forwarding
Sure.
them, and then that's all you need to say, if that's all you want to say.
So just to clarify, the agenda item's not in the closed session. The agenda item is in the,
That would need to
Following
be
in the
open, because
open.
that's a final decision.
Yeah, so it will be after.
but we don't have to list the people,
You don't
right?
have
But we don't have to say the names. We
No,
just say we've made a decision, or if we haven't made a decision.
right, correct.
And really what we could say is that we're going to be, you have been chosen to send, your name will be sent to the mayor. Maybe we could just be that straightforward, just say, hey, we've
Well-
chosen you to be shared with the mayor, and he will.
Right,
If
but
we want to.
Keanu, you're moving into a different issue. The issue right now is, are we going to make those names available at our meeting? What you're now talking about is, are we going to let the nominees know?
Okay, so no, we don't have to, if Debbie, I don't know what your thoughts are, but we don't have to make it public. We could just do it by, we can do it by ear. I think that's, I don't think we need to make a decision right at this moment on that, but I don't see there being an issue. If people feel comfortable, they've sent it in publicly, people will know that they may be on the board. So maybe they're comfortable with us sharing their names when we choose them. But I think if I was selected for a board, I'd want to know first before it being shared too. I'd want to know
Okay, again,
before it's shared publicly.
okay. So one is, if I'm hearing us correctly, we're not going to share the names after the closed session.
Mhm.
The other question though, which is what you've been addressing, is, are we going to let the people know themselves? Are we going to let Mr. Smith know that his name is being forwarded to the mayor? That's what the applicant has asked. The applicant has asked, will the people whose name is being forwarded to the mayor be notified of that? So if I'm hearing you, what I think I'm hearing you is that we are open to doing that, or we're not. I mean,
If there's no issue with it, if that's not going to cause any issue with the mayor or anyone, then absolutely we can and should let them know.
It's just that we don't know if they're going to be
Selected.
selected.
Yes, exactly. So yes, Madam Clerk. Mhm.
Just seeing it from both
Okay.
sides.
I'll
Wouldn't that
have to
put
just
them?
check with the mayor to make sure they're,
Yeah,
I'm
let's
saying
check.
you will be put, if you guys submit names to him and these are the people you choose and you tell the people, then you're putting the mayor in a bad spot if he doesn't
I'm
select
saying.
them. So we might be
Okay.
better off to keep everybody happy. But you're the board, just 2
So
cents.
who in the mayor's office? Should I just ask one in the mayor's office, or just call him and ask him? Yeah, I'll just
So-
call. I'll just call and ask. Well, how do you
When are,
feel?
but when are you planning on doing that?
I could do it tomorrow. I could do it whatever.
You should talk to his chief of staff.
Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely. Anyone in the
His
office
chief of
recommend.
staff, Kate. What's Kate's last
Okay.
name?
Headed.
headed.
Pettit. That's right. Thank you.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely, Kate. Okay, I'll give her a call. I'll ask
And
her.
and what are you gonna ask her?
I'm gonna ask her thoughts. I'm gonna tell her what we've discussed. We've discussed 2 parts. One, we've discussed whether or not we should notify the members after we select them in our meeting, if we should let them know and what the thoughts are, how they feel about that, and also not only letting the members, the person that we selected know, but also how they would feel if we publicly announced those names before the mayor made his decision.
Okay. But just to circle back again, I think you can take a vote on it. I think I'm hearing that the three of us are tending not to make those announcements public after the meeting. Unless I'm reading us wrong.
Debbie?
I personally would prefer not to make a public announcement of who we are forwarding to the mayor.
I agree. I think we need to defer to the mayor and council when they make a decision, and then we'll let people know when they make the decision after our decision.
Okay.
All right.
And yeah, because does the mayor usually let those members know? Does their office usually reach out to them and say, hey, you've been selected? Because I found out through
Yes.
the Cinch Committee. Okay, good. Okay, perfect.
Yes.
All right.
That's-
Right, but that's a different process which you found,
Correct.
how you get on this board, so.
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm glad it's fruitful. If there aren't any other thoughts on this, I will let everyone know. Is it all right, Regina, if I email everyone and update them on what Kate says, or should I just wait till our next meeting to share?
That is a good question. I don't know the answer to that.
You know, I
would ask.
you-
I don't know.
You can provide an update in email as long as it doesn't turn into a discussion.
A discussion. There you go.
I'll do.
Yeah, so you can say, here's what Kate said, and then at the closed session, you can discuss it further about how it will impact what you'll do when you come out of open session. It just can't turn into a discussion about, or a decision about what you do.
Okay, thank you. Okay, perfect. Great. So if there aren't any more points on this, I'm so proud of all of us, y'all. Let's move forward to the update on the amended reports, campaign fund report analysis from July 1st, 2022. Thank you very much, Eileen, for your updates. I know I looked them over. If you'd like to just give us a little overview right quick for us to make any further comments. If I didn't yet, I'll just wait. Yeah, please.
Well, I thought we would go through all of them, so hopefully you all were able to double check me.
Yep.
Debbie, did you have a chance to look at them?
I did.
Okay,
I looked at your red remarks on our master sheet. I did not look at each individual amended report, so hopefully Keanu did that. We just got back today,
Look at the
actually, from
remarks.
being gone.
Right. Kiana, did you get to look at the actual?
Amended report.
The amended reports. No, I did look at the comments as well, but I did not dive. I don't want to say I looked them over more than I went through and read them through.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and look at what I've done, and then I think we still need to make sure that we get a second pair of eyes on all of these. So if you guys could
Yeah, I'm pulling up.
divvy them up again and take a look at it. And there's not as many this time. Okay, so of course, Friends of George Gallagher, no action has been needed. It's fine. People for Keanu Smith Brown, as we mentioned last month, an explanation was submitted, but I think what we need to do at this point is to sit down with the campaign treasurer and go through the past reports and bank statements to see if we can rectify it. So, I mean, I'm
There is
willing to do that. What?
If you don't mind, I did speak with the bank today.
Uh-huh.
They're going to be providing to me all of the report, because at first we just had a certain amount, but they said they're going to be providing all the reports before the merger. So that's perfect. We'll be able to go through all of that and actually be able to see what the issue is from 6 months prior. So,
Okay, so do you want your campaign manager to meet with one of us, or do you want to just try to sort it out yourself for the?
I think what I'll do first is we'll go through it first, and then if we don't see it, I think I'll share.
All right, so that'll give you another 30 days.
Okay.
Friends of Katie George. No report has not been submitted. We have not had any recent response to the additional certified letter that was sent. The $250 late fee has not been paid. I did talk with, at our last meeting, we decided that I would talk with Jared DeMoranis of the State Board of Elections, which I did. I'm looking for my paper. Okay. So I was able to talk with Jared on a number of, on 4 different items, which I'll bring up at each particular one. So this was a question in regards to how the state handles when a candidate refuses to submit a campaign report, in particular when there does seem to be monies that are still available. So this is what the state would do. If a candidate refuses to submit a campaign fund report, the state would subpoena the candidate's bank account and their statements. And they would ask for the statements so that they could do a review of the receipts and disbursements to see if they appear consistent with valid campaign expenses. If they did appear to be consistent with valid campaign expenses and the money was all dispersed, they would do an administrative closure. If it appeared that they had been spent or taken out for personal reasons or inappropriate reasons, it would be considered theft and referred to the state prosecutor's office. If the account is intact, unfortunately, I didn't ask Jared that question when we were on the phone, and I haven't been able to touch base with him about that. I did send him an email to see what could be done after that. But those are the 3 options. I was a little surprised by them, but that's what they do. They either subpoena the records. And I don't know if that's something, I did mention it to Ashley, as far as something that even we can do from a board perspective or from the city's perspective. It could be something that we want to send to the campaign and just say this could be our next step. So I don't know how you want to handle that information, but that's what Jared told me they did at the state level.
As I'm thinking and heard that, especially since the last part of the agenda will be about the waiving fees, we should let them know that that's the next step.
If we can do it. I think first we have to find out if it's even something that we can do, and then it's something if we would do. But certainly I wouldn't want to do something without notifying the campaign. I think it does bring it to certainly a different level. So Ashley, are you still with us?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, so you mentioned it. I haven't had a chance to touch base with the city attorney to ask him. It's been a little busy in our office of late. But it's on my to-do list to ask him probably next week.
Okay. Do we want to do something before our next meeting, then send another letter?
So so she's in Texas, and she's like she's turned her back on us. Her treasurer is the Turner, right? Isn't her treasurer Taylor or Turner?
Yeah, I don't know offhand. I think it's Jack, somebody. We haven't heard anything from him.
And you know him, Keanu, right?
I know of. If it's the same Jack Turner that I know of from in the East Bay, then yeah, I do. And I could reach. I just want to make sure that's the right Jack Turner.
Yeah, because I mean, she's going to delay, and she's just not in. Katie George is just not interested. But we do need to notify. But
He
if
has
he's
been
on the
notified.
ground, I mean, her treasurer, his name is on her work
Right.
as well.
He's been notified.
Right. So at least he's here, and we can
Well, but he hasn't responded either. Neither, so.
So do we want to then ask or move, if allowed, we move to get that letter sent to them, telling them about what may happen if we don't receive this in the days that are allowed? Because I don't want to do, I don't want to ask you to share with us, hey, yeah, we can do it, and then we won't be able to agree as one body that, hey, let's get it done via email. So I'd like to move, if it is the case that we can, that we do send that letter.
Right.
You
because
can
like-
also still pursue like a municipal infraction type level as well, because I mean, even if you're not able to, if you don't have the subpoena powers to go over the bank records, they still have essentially violated the code by failing to comply with the requirements.
Yeah, and they've been fined. I mean, she's been fined because of the violation. But they're, now we're being ignored. And a follow-up letter was sent, and that was ignored.
But the municipal infraction would go to court, so she would have to go to court. So I mean, it might not be the same level as subpoenaing the bank records, but it would still move it along, so to speak. And then you would have a court involved, which might be harder to ignore.
Avoid, yeah, we can't ignore the courts.
Yeah,
Okay.
I like that idea.
Yeah, that seems a little less, I wouldn't say less harsh, but it's
I'd like to proceed with something that we feel more comfortable with according to our code. So,
let's go with that.
I mean, I would be comfortable making a motion to proceed with a municipal, is it a filing, Ashley? File?
It would be a municipal infraction, so it would just need to go. It would
Municipal
need to be a request to my boss, the city attorney, that you've had this violation, and then he would need the city clerk and you guys to sort of put a whole packet, like all the letters and stuff together, and then him or one of the assistant city attorneys would proceed with it.
All right,
Okay.
so there's the motion.
Well, I'll make a motion that we make a request from the Office of Law to proceed with a municipal infraction towards Miss George and and her treasurer in an effort to get compliance with the campaign fund reports.
All right, is there a second?
I second that. And at the same time, we should let her know. We want
Well,
to
we can
wrap
only,
this up.
let's do the motion first. Let's
Oh,
get the
okay, I
motion done
second the
first.
motion.
All right, all in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right,
So-
yes,
Right.
Debbie?
And in addition, when she's notified about the municipal infraction, to say, we want to get this wrapped up, and our next step, if you don't comply with this request, would be, potential subpoena of your records. And that's just giving her a heads up that, we're trying to work through this, and but it's going to get worse if you don't help, if you don't comply.
Well, first off, we don't know if we can do it, and then we don't know if we would do it. So
Yeah, but we're saying possible.
I'm kind of inclined at this point just to also send her another certified letter saying this is what our plan is, that at this meeting, we voted to proceed with a municipal infraction. And do we want to give her another deadline to say, if you don't comply by this date, we will move forward? Or do you just want to move forward?
I would add that with any municipal infraction, usually the attorney in charge will reach out to see if they can resolve it before it goes to court anyway.
Oh, okay.
So it's not always it's not an instantaneous thing. Like you would get on a docket, but I mean, obviously the fewer of those they can take and the more that they're able to resolve ahead of time, they tend to try to do that. So
Right. And we really just want her to submit the reports and pay her
right,
fine.
which is how most municipal infractions roll, because most municipal infractions, you're trying to get someone to comply and do something. And if they do it, if they abate, whatever action they're doing, then they can, dismiss the municipal infraction.
Okay, so, all right, so we'll move forward then with that municipal infraction, or at least sharing with the attorney that that's what we would like to do. And then we'll go from there. After that letter is sent, they'll do their best to rectify. If they get some response, okay, finally. And if not, should we, to Debbie's point, in that letter that's being sent, should we at least share with her what could
Possibly.
happen? After you find out, Ashley, after you find out, if it's the case that we are able to do that, at least share with her that these are options that may take place. Once you get confirmation, though.
Right. I don't like going to Plan B before we've taken care of Plan A. And right now, if I heard Ashley correctly, we're not sending her a letter. We're moving forward with the Office of Law, and the lawyer will contact her, if I'm hearing that correctly.
I mean, in theory, you could do both, but yes, generally, once a municipal infraction is assigned, at some point the attorney reaches out before it goes to court. But it can take a couple of months to get these things docketed. So, I mean, if you want to send a letter as well, that's your prerogative.
Because our letter could go out so that she's aware that this is in the process.
Right.
Yeah, so we could send that letter out so that she knows, okay, this is what I'm ready to deal with, and I will look forward to getting reached out to. Yes, ma'am, clerk.
I just want to say your motion was to move forward with the municipal infraction. It didn't say anything about sending a letter.
No, so we would have to have another motion.
So just following.
So, a municipal infraction can take months.
No, not to draft it.
No, it depends. We do municipal infractions once a month.
Mhm.
So depending on when this all gets resolved is when it would get on the docket, and they only do so many of them. It's just the way it's set up with the court, is that I think it's the first Tuesday every month, the city brings in all of its municipal infractions and does it in like one big docket usually.
Yes.
Ashley, can I just ask a question? But to actually issue her a municipal infraction, somebody has to write.
That can happen.
That can happen
sooner. I'm just talking about actually getting to court.
Okay.
And before a judge. No, the process can start rolling much faster than that.
Yeah.
Okay, so technically then she'll be notified even before she gets a letter.
There is.
Municipal infractions I know the basics of them, but I'd have to talk with Karen Steele in my office. In our office deals with like the ramifications of that. And so Regina and I would have to figure out how to issue the municipal infraction, because usually it's coming from like a department.
Yeah.
The department writes it up. So her and I would have to talk with the city attorney about how it gets written up and issued and served. And this is sort of a one-off scenario.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'd like to make a motion that we notify Miss George and her campaign treasurer by certified letter that at our December 15th, 2022 meeting, we have requested the Office of Law to proceed with filing a municipal infraction because the campaign has not filed past amended reports and its July 1st, 2022 report, and has not paid its $250 fine. If they, I'd like to give them an out saying, something along the lines of if they can comply with this sooner or something along those lines.
Then we won't have to deal with all that pretty much. Okay, is there a second to that motion? That minding us that we're not mentioning any other repercussions that may happen, because we're just going to let this one to just go first, and then we'll maybe, if necessary, add the second one. So is there a second to this motion?
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor of this motion, please.
Aye.
Aye.
I mean,
Debbie,
all of this shouldn't be so difficult, right?
No.
These are all people who wanted to lead us. They wanted to be elected. They
Right.
wanted to be an alderman. They wanted to comply with laws. They wanted to make laws. And this is totally embarrassing and distressing that there are so many mistakes and so much time. And Eileen, you have spent so much personal time on this, and it's, going forward, I'm hoping we can maybe make the process
Right.
better, easier, clearer.
Well, I think Jared would tell us that even though they have an automated system, they have two people that do not, I shouldn't say do nothing, but they have two people on their staff that are constantly going after. So this isn't
babysitting,
something that we
yeah.
just deal with. It does seem to be more, has said that it does seem to occur more with losing candidates that, I think the natural reaction is to just kind of forget about it. But
Right.
this has been more difficult. Usually at least if we don't hear from the candidate, we hear from the treasurer or vice versa. And I think this is unusual that we're not hearing from either one of them. So, I'm not against necessarily moving forward with, other options, but I think this is a good first start, and it's a stepwise. And if we find out we can subpoena the bank accounts, I mean, if we were doing that, we're essentially doing their work for them.
I know.
But, I'd like to give, I'm not saying we won't go in that direction, but at least this is again, the next step. So, I want to thank Ashley for kind of following up on this. Okay.
Move forward.
All right. So while we're on that, the other thing in terms of we're kind of rolling the $250 late fee into that penalty into this particular candidates, but at least moving forward, I did ask him about what they do if someone refuses to pay the $250 penalty fee, because that's usually a separate issue. And what the state would do is sue them in court for the payment. And he said they usually get it. So that has repercussions for two of the other people. So we'll get to that in a minute. So I think we've finished with Miss George's. The next one is Friends of Scott Gibson. His amended report was received on time, no further action needed. And he did in an email say that he was working on submitting his final
Tell me that
report.
too.
Yeah, he has. Yeah, so he has changed his affiliation, I noticed, from Republican to unaffiliated.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because when I saw that on his application, I said, hold on. We
So
gotta
so that's pending. Ms. Smanthe did submit a report this time. It was late. It is missing some strike-throughs and initials on the pages, and Schedule 3 has codes missing, addresses missing, and some incorrect entries. So she needs to be notified that she needs to make those changes. And then also she has a $250 late fee. So I think we need to let her know about the changes that are needed, and also again, remind her of the $250 late fee. Again, Ashley, when you try to sue for a $250 late fee, is that a civil infraction also?
All right. So sorry, I was checking the code because I'm not a litigation lawyer. So technically the correct word is misdemeanor, I think.
Oh,
So
okay.
apologies for that. But I think for a correct, because it's kind of in the same boat. It would be the same, I think, the same process. But again, I'm a contract attorney, not a litigation attorney. So in either way, you would ask the Office of Law essentially to pursue the violation of the city code as appropriate, whether it's a municipal infraction or a misdemeanor, and they would pursue it the same way. It'll be the same for not submitting a report, failing to respond to submitting a report, or not paying the fines. For you guys, it's all the same bucket. So, I mean, I guess suing them, I mean, we wouldn't, I don't think in theory I guess suing them could be the process, but we'd be pursuing a violation of the city code in whatever capacity that the city attorney thinks is appropriate. But it's a lower level issue. I
Right.
mean, we're not like doing a massive lawsuit against them or anything.
So in one case, so in Katie George, there's no report submitted, and she has a late fee and there's no report. In a couple others, there's a late report, right?
Mhm.
And they all have the $250 late fee because of the amount of days. But
Correct.
we have like 3 of them, we have late reports. 1 we don't ever report at all. It seems like there should be a difference, a distinction between not getting a report and getting a late report.
Right. Well, I think that's what
I mean,
was saying.
the way the city code is set up, because that's what I was just checking, is under the election laws. any violation under your guys' title is just considered a violation. So, I mean, technically a late report is a violation and a judge might treat it differently, but you're not getting like levels of category like you would like in like a criminal case, for instance. It's a violation is a violation. You either complied with the code or you didn't.
Okay, so do we want to move forward with Ms. Manthe as far as pursuing a violation of the city code, or do we want to ask her again, saying, if you don't submit within the next 30 days, along with your amended, if you don't, she submitted an amended report, so do we want to say, we received your amended report, we did not receive your $250 penalty fee. If you do not submit it within the next 30 days, we will move forward on pursuing a violation of the city code. Do we want to send her a letter with that information included?
Yeah, I
'cause
think
we haven't
if,
sent it to her yet, right? We only sent it to Scott, it's not Scott, but we only sent it to Fred and to
No, she was notified.
she got a letter.
200. So okay, so
She got a
Kate-
certified letter on October 7th.
Perfect. Oh, yep, here it is. Yep. Okay, so we'll be just essentially just reminding her again.
Well, I think what we did last time is we said this could happen, and now we're saying it will happen.
Right, because there was no report submitted at first either from her.
Right.
So the report came in and I'm just thinking, the report came in and they may not be sure, if that waives
No, it doesn't, and yeah. So,
250. And
so-
I mean, this is something, to clean up in the future, but we want people to run, and even, we'll get to it, but even a current alderman messed up. It just seems like, I don't know if it's our side or their side, but
Everybody else got their stuff in.
I know it wasn't, I mean, I've been a treasurer a number of times for a number of candidates, and yes, it took a lot of time, and yes, you had to really read and read and reread and ask questions and, check and recheck, but it can be done. It's not easy, but it can be done. I'm just, we want people to run for office. I just really hate punishing them for
I don't think we're punishing them. I think we're holding them responsible.
Mhm.
yeah.
I mean, it's not a punishment. It's a penalty, yes, but it's a responsibility. And other people have followed through on it. So I'd like to make a motion that we send Ms. Manthe a certified letter telling her that her $250 late fee has not been submitted. And if it's not submitted within 30 days, the Board of Supervisors of Elections will be pursuing a violation of city code via the Office of Law.
And also there's amendments needed, right, to her report.
That's a separate
Okay.
issue. I mean,
Is
we
there
can
a
just let her know, like we're letting everybody else know, we
That-
got your report, it needs to be amended, but that can be handled
separately.
All right.
like we do with everybody else, so.
Is there a second to that motion to send that letter to her, letting
I'll
her know
second
that this?
that.
Okay, I'm all
And
in.
Katie
favor.
George already has 2 letters, right? Katie George, hers was sent on.
All right, let's get the
December
motion finished. Let's
Oh, okay.
let's vote on the motion.
Okay, all in favor of that motion to send a letter, please?
Aye. Aye, okay.
And now
So
to
do
that
we-
question, please share, because I actually was thinking, where are we with the others versus her? Because it seems that we've been talking more about George and sending her a whole bunch versus Fred and Monica. So let me look this over. So we sent that certified
I
letter.
can't remember if Ashley sent a second letter.
They all got one on October 7th,
They all got
Yeah.
one on October 7th.
and that was three people.
Ashley, do you know if a second letter had been sent to Miss George?
I feel like I've done a couple to her.
Yeah, I think she got 2. I'd have to go back and look.
I remember seeing copies of them.
I feel like I've done at least 2 for her.
Because
I
Regina
wrote down here, the next step is Office of Law sends a letter, and that was from another meeting, so I
Yeah.
think you did, Ashley, to follow up with that.
So I think that makes sense then to just give Monica another push just to make sure she gets the same.
Yeah, I'll double check on Katie George's and let you all know if there was a second one.
Okay, perfect. Well, we did. So now that motion's moved forward, we can move forward for Monica, just to remind her.
Okay. All right, so we have at least, so that's good. At least we got our stuff. So then the next one is Friends of Fred Payone. We did receive his initial report, which was late. It came in August 5th, 2022, which is what led to the $250 late fee. He has not submitted an amended report. Is that correct, Regina? We didn't get an amended report from him. Okay, so
Anything.
Friends of Fred Payone owe an amended report. They've been notified of what needed to be done, and they were notified of the $250 late fee that has not been paid. However, per an email, the campaign manager asked for it to be waived.
Which we'll talk about soon. Okay.
So I think we just need to tell them again, you owe us an amended report. There's no penalty for not submitting an amended report.
But that late fee we'll decide after we talk about this on our agenda.
Decide it now.
Yeah, I was just because I think we should decide it. So if Monica's getting another letter, if Fred hasn't received 2 letters, like, or as we may believe that
That's
Katie
not,
did,
yeah, but no, the question is, are we going to waive the $250 late fee for Friends of Fred Payone?
that's the question.
What has his history been? He's been an alderman a long time.
But there's no option. It's the same as what we've done before. We can't waive it. It's not.
Yeah,
city code. So, I mean,
Waive the fee.
so Mr. Landis is asking, can the fee be waived?
We cannot waive the fee.
We can't waive the fee. I agree.
And that wouldn't be, we all have, no, because then that would be,
So-
then to what Debbie was sharing earlier, we would have, and to what Ashley was mentioning, it's not in tiers. So what we decide then if someone didn't do this, then they
Right,
would
so-
be, so no.
Okay, so I make a motion that we notify the Friends of Fred Payone that at our December 15th, 2022 meeting, their request was reviewed and denied due to, and then we can cite city code.
Cool. All right, is there a second to that
Yeah.
motion?
Mm.
If there isn't a second, we don't.
Yeah, I mean, my concern with any of them is I just think 250 is a lot, but that's already in code. That's not up to us. That's
Right.
already law. I just want all these people to participate. And I think the punishment is extreme.
It's
my
not
opinion.
punishment, it's a penalty.
I know, yeah. And
For
the
their
amount
lack
of
of
time
action.
it's taking the law office and the city clerk and us to go over this is incredible, because this is
Yeah.
meeting after meeting, babysitting these candidates and what they're supposed to be doing. I mean, I don't know where the problem is, but I hope in 4 years or 3 years now, it's not going to be this painful for everybody.
So-
And I mean, 250 might seem like a little to some people or a lot to some people.
The mo-
So
the
are
motion
you
on the floor
seconding
is
it?
just-
Yeah, I mean, the report came in.
The only motion
No,
on the floor is that
He
we
does
know,
not have a report.
Yeah.
So
it's just that we're
So-
notifying him whether or not it's being waived, and
Yeah.
we're
because
answering
we
his
cannot-
question.
I don't think we can, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
we
it's not
can't.
in the,
Maybe the task force can look that over, but we cannot.
So there's a motion on the floor, Debbie, that we
okay.
respond to them
Second.
saying
Okay, there's a second just to respond. Okay, all in favor of that motion?
can't.
I-
Aye.
Okay,
So I agree with you, Debbie, but we can't do anything more about it at this point.
time. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So-
Moving on, Friends of Rock.
Yes, Madam Clerk.
Anything else on Friends of Payone?
Yeah, let me just let me just ask for clarification. You said that he's going to receive a letter that his request to waive the fees was denied. And in that letter, are we also including, so you still owe $250 in an amended report? Is that one letter?
That wasn't in the motion.
I know, that's why
Yeah.
that's why I'm asking.
Well,
Is that one
well,
letter?
he's gonna find out he still needs an amended report when we send all this out.
Okay, well, I was just asking because
Correct.
of the way that Miss Matthew is going to receive a second letter. So if you wanted to be consistent, I was just asking.
Well, she's receiving a second letter based on her late fee also.
Right.
So
They're
the
all
late
gonna
fee
get,
letters.
they're all gonna
One
get
letter.
notified of their amended reports as one group, like we did before.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So yeah, we're done with Fred if that's everything.
Anything else on that
Yeah.
campaign? Okay, Friends of Rock Taves, no actions needed to be taken. The Annapolis Democratic Central Committee has not received, we have not received an amended report from them, so they need to be notified along for just with the updates. The Annapolis Republican Central Committee did receive theirs on time. They're compliant, so there's no further action needed with them. Ross Arnett, no changes needed. Friends of Gavin Buckley, they submitted theirs on time, but schedules 1 and 3 need to be resubmitted with appropriate headings. It's a minor detail, but if you were to get those pages out of order, you would know which one was receipts and which one was disbursement. So they just need to put a heading on their attachments and send them back to us. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. But the content from my review, the content was okay. And they made the change on Schedule 1 in terms of the aggregates. So see what I'm saying? Their
Yeah,
schedule-
I see.
So they did put in the dates on their Schedule 1 and they did change the aggregate,
But he just
and the totals were added for disbursement. So all of the content was done correctly. They just submitted it without a heading.
exactly. Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yes.
Well,
Now,
I-
you may need to be looking at these. That's what I found, but you may find other stuff when you review them.
yeah, I just see at the top of one, it does say contributions, but the others don't have. Yeah, the
Okay,
others don't
but
have. any
again,
type.
yeah,
We
these
need
all
to-
need a second pair of eyes before anything goes out to them. So,
I would say.
all right, so. Okay, number 4, moving on to Rhonda Pindell Charles. Her pages were totaled at the end. Her Schedule 3 has a math error that I found. So that would need to be corrected and resubmitted. Other than that, she's okay. She just she submitted to Schedule 3. There's still a mistake, so it needs to be resubmitted. Sheila Finlayson, her Schedule 3 was missing an attachment that was submitted and appears correct. The past report indicated the donation from the PAC. At our last meeting, we agreed that we would accept the documentation that was found at the state level. Of note is that when I talked with Jared DeMoranis about that, he said at the state level that would, I mean, for them, it was compliant. So he could say, he thought if we thought it was compliant, he was in agreement with that. Of note when her report is reviewed, you'll find that they actually found an error that we didn't have, that we hadn't noticed before, which was they had accepted a donation that exceeded the $1,000. And so
Oh.
they noted it and then they've already returned it.
Oh,
Okay.
so they took care of that?
They've already taken care of it. It was in that amended report.
Okay.
Great. Yeah.
I saw the 500 note, but I didn't
Yeah, I
Right.
see it.
realize it was already returned.
Um, so Dewan Gay, no changes are needed. Friends of Karma, she had a math correction that needed to be done for Schedule 3. That was done. Hers was also received and appears now to be compliant. Friends of Rob Savage, his summary sheet, that was corrected. His Schedule 1, the aggregates were not corrected. Again, it's a minor type of thing that they could correct the next time, but he's going to have to put in something anyway. His Schedule 3 was the correction was made. His Schedule 5, the in-kind contributions, he is missing his April entry. So I think it was something like, it was like 8 times $29 or something like that, but there's only 7 listed. So he needs to put in the April one. And then initials and strike-throughs were done. So it looks like he needs to submit Schedules 1 and 5. They need to have their corrections made. Brooks for Annapolis. His pages were out of order, but they were submitted in order. The blanks were taken care of with initials. The summary sheet, the cash balance was incorrect, and that's been corrected. Schedule 1, the monies needed to be moved from Friends of Katie George. That was done correctly. The Schedules 1 and 3, the totals were corrected. So all of his stuff was corrected that I can see.
Mhm.
Number 6, in terms of the past report, when we found that the PAC in question, Insulators International, had not filled out, had not filed with the Maryland SBE, but is filed at the federal level. And there's no annual report that I could find. I don't know if it doesn't say there wasn't one. I just couldn't find it. So per what we discussed at our last meeting, I did discuss that with Jared D. Moranis. He said that they, at the state level, they would accept the federal level notation unless it exceeded a certain amount. And they deal with much larger numbers than we do. So it would have been 10,000 for them. But again, at this point, again, we don't really have a mechanism for filing. So as long as he thought that our decision to accept the documentation appeared, I mean, we've got the information. It's not a big donation. It's not out of line. So he didn't have any other recommendations to do other than what we had said we would do, which was accept it at this point. Does that sound good to you all?
Yes.
Okay.
So we would be accepting us not having a record of that money being sent to the campaign.
Well, we have a record of it being sent. We don't,
Federal.
our code requires
Yeah,
the Political Action Committee to submit a report,
exactly.
but we don't really have a good mechanism for how we do it. So, I think what we should say is we'll accept the information that we have right now, which is they are on file at the federal level. And we have their address, we have all of that. See what other levels do is you have to file a campaign fund report similar to what the candidates are filing.
Mhm.
And we say we want one, but we don't say who's responsible for getting it. Are we responsible for getting it from Insulators International, or is the candidate, or is international supposed to be doing it? So that's what's so vague. The bottom line is it was reported on the campaign fund report. It's within the limits that are in code. We have the address. We know that they're at least on file at the federal level. So at this juncture, I would like to make a motion that the Board of Supervisors of Elections accepts the current documentation that's been provided as sufficient.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
Yeah, as long as we clean it up going forward. Either way, I'll
That's
second
fine.
it.
Yeah, and
I'm sorry, Eileen, could you restate your motion, please?
So the motion is to accept the current document. Let me think. The motion is to accept the current documentation on the Political Action Committee Insulators International that was listed in Brooks for Annapolis campaign and consider it sufficient. Does that make sense? Okay.
Mhm.
All right. So that's my motion. I'm losing track. Did we vote on it?
No,
We did.
no,
Oh,
we
I
had a
seconded
yeah,
it.
we had a second, but
Yeah.
all all in favor of that motion.
Aye.
Aye.
I think going back, Regina, do you need us to do a motion for Sheila Finlayson? Or I think we did that at our last meeting.
We did, I believe.
Yeah, we did.
So we don't need to do anything more on that. We don't need to take action. Okay. Anything else on that?
No, I
So-
do want to, so I take it, is this something we need clarified by the task force, or is this something that the board will then decide moving forward?
Well, it's something that's in code, so it, just like all of the code, it needs to be addressed either by the task force or down the road. I mean, the easiest thing to do going forward would just be if it's filed with the Maryland, they don't have to file with us. I mean, I think the way that it was done in Sheila Finlayson's is something we could think of in the future. If it's filed with the state of Maryland and it's noted in their report, then it's sufficient for us. But again, we can look at that through the task force, or if they don't address it, we can address it at a later time.
I just want to make sure that we're being consistent and
Right.
holding.
Because this union with Alderman Shandelmeyer, it's not filed in Maryland. It's just a national, right? It's
No, the one with Alderman Finlayson is filed with the state of Maryland.
Right, but the Brooks is not.
No,
And
And-
that's what needs to be cleaned up, right?
potentially. What the state does is if it's under a certain level, they let it go, or they just accept the federal level. If it goes above a certain level, they require them to be registered. So.
Okay, perfect. Well, okay. Well, we just let it slide.
Okay. All right, so our last one is Eleanor Tierney. On her Schedule 1, we asked them to correct the aggregates, and what they did was they took the aggregates out. So if there was $100 donate, again, it's kind of a minor thing. If they had $100 donation in the last election cycle and they made a $50 one this time, they recorded it as $150 when it should have been recorded as $50. What they ended up doing was taking the whole thing out. So they
Oh,
technically need to submit a corrected Schedule 1 with the aggregates. That's all they need to. And then, so that's with Schedule 1. So they need to resubmit the Schedule 1 with the corrected aggregates. I know it's kind of a minor thing, but I keep hoping that if we ask them to do it correctly over and over again, they'll catch on. I mean, that's with all of the campaigns.
right.
Schedule 3 with the disbursements, the Historic Annapolis membership. This was something that I was to talk with Jared DeMoranis about. In state code, they are much more specific about what can be used for a disbursement. So at the state level, this likely would not be accepted. We do, to my knowledge, and I haven't had a chance to go back and look at it. We don't specify or define our disbursements. We don't say, what is a campaign, what is an acceptable campaign disbursement. We don't say, we have codes for each different types, but we don't say, yes, you can use it. I mean, we have like ink and paper and things like that. We don't get into the nitty gritty of it. Again, this is something, points to why we need some more upgrades. So it would probably not be accepted at the state level, is my understanding. We did ask the campaign to submit an explanation, and they did. At our last meeting, I think our question, I can't remember if we questioned it then or not. What I've noted is that the The donation or the membership expense was made after the election. So is this this is technically a disbursement of the current election cycle. And so she explained how it affected her from the last election, but not necessarily. I guess the bottom line is, are we just gonna, because we don't really have anything in code saying you can't do it, are we willing to just accept it at this point and know that moving forward, we might need to be more specific? Or do we want to ask for more documentation? Or do we want to say it's denied?
I like number 2, Plan B.
Ask for more information?
No, let it go this time
Okay.
because it's not clear.
I'm
I-
I'm in favor of that too.
She did try to explain it.
She gave us what we asked for.
People who spend money in campaigns are well aware of what you can and can't, like you should and should, let's say what you should and should not spend money on. So I don't think, since this is I haven't seen any other candidate really pay for memberships to anything.
However, we do have candidates that do pay for community events, do make contributions to nonprofits.
I mean, this is her district.
Mhm.
That's the
Yes.
key. It is an organization that affects her district.
I think the red flag was membership. So it's a membership as opposed to a contribution. You have a membership, there are benefits associated with a membership. That's what makes it different, I think, than other contributions.
So if we ask for more information, what kind of information would we need? Because
We're not going to get much more than we got before.
No,
I
exactly.
agree with Debbie. I think the campaign gave us what we asked for, and it's a lesson moving forward that we need to be more specific about what is considered an appropriate campaign. Because I don't think at other state levels that if you were to give $500 to, the Ward 1 Girls Club, that may not necessarily be an appropriate campaign. Again, this is a campaign contribution, but that's a discussion for another day.
Mhm.
So.
Okay.
So-
All right. Well, if there is a motion then to excuse this, we should.
Allow
do
it.
that.
I don't think it's an excuse. I'll make the motion that we accept the current documentation as sufficient and appropriate.
Accept it. Second.
All right. If there's okay, all in favor,
Aye.
I would abstain.
Are you going to abstain?
Yes.
So the motion still
Did you get
passes.
Yep. It's still
Yes.
passed. It's
Yeah,
absolutely.
we just need to be clear,
Yeah.
clearer.
Then
I
loose. Leave it some loose. Yes, Madam Clerk.
Okay, I just want to say that you guys did not take a roll call vote, so you called for the vote. So you had a second, and it carried. So when you abstain, it would show that in the minutes if you did a roll call.
Okay, so it
So
does
we
not.
want
Want to do a roll
So it does not
call?
show in the. It does not show in the minutes that I've.
Right, because you did a voice vote.
Yep.
So if you want the minutes to reflect your abstention, you need to do a roll call. That's where it would say, this person voted yes, this person voted no, this person abstained.
All right. Well, one, if we wanted to do a roll call, could rewind back and go back and request for a roll call vote?
But it's still passed. So it really doesn't make
Yeah.
a difference. We're just kind of teaching as
I'm
we go.
okay with it not being reflected
Okay.
in the minutes. I thought about I'm okay with that because
Okay.
I do agree with what was shared. I just don't believe. Yeah. So okay. Thank you. Oh, I had a question. I did have a
So-
question about. Oh yeah, if there's anything else with Ellen.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, we don't have a ironclad procedure for how we're doing this, but I mean, do we want to go ahead and send these out based on my looking at them, or do you want to wait until they're looked at a second time to see if there's additional things that need to be added or changed. That's what we've done in the past. So that would mean you all have to do the second review before anything goes out. And then the next question is can we send it out can we do that via email, or do we have to wait until our next meeting to review it again?
Mhm.
Discussion would have to take place in your meeting.
Okay. So by the next meeting, so we can't do anything until the next meeting as far as sending out what we need back. Unless we say we're going to go with this one.
Mhm.
We should go with it then.
I would agree. I did look it over, and I'm confident enough in the work that's been done, especially since we've been documenting every step that we've taken and everything that's still remaining. And you know, I believe that it's pretty solid. So I say let's go with it.
Okay,
And
so
then-
there's not too many things that are off. It's all
Nope.
pretty minor stuff.
And I mean, I've been keeping notes of everything we've been waiting on and looking at. And, you know, initially we looked at them, and then you've kind of looked at them since then, but I've been tracking what those have been. And you have too, obviously, because we've caught up. I mean, they've all been, they're either
Mhm.
going to get asked for again, or they've been covered. So I think we should move on it, going, you know, not wait another month.
Yes, ma'am, Claire.
So would you guys be willing to make a motion to approve the analysis as discussed? And then we can start sending out the analysis to have all of the corrections made. And then the 30-day clock will start the day that we send it out, and it'll probably be next week.
Okay, I did have a question before we make that motion. Are candidates or those who are currently elected allowed, because I did not see this, allowed to raise money or have money donated to them while they're elected currently?
Yeah, as long as
So-
their campaign is open.
Okay, let's go. Is there a motion then to approve of this analysis and send out to all of our candidates?
Yeah, I just have one thought now, back to the yearly membership. So in question was the HA Historic Annapolis yearly membership. And we're letting it go this year based on the questions and answers. But if it's a yearly membership, that means it's going to come up again, you know, in a year or less.
Hmm.
And
Very soon, depending on when it needs to be refreshed.
And if, I mean, do we need to say like this one time only until things are looked at? Because the task force, if they look at it, or if we look at it, it's going to be months away. So maybe back to that one case, which is a reoccurring expense that we're on the fence about, just say this one time it's approved.
Would that be a letter or would that be a note? What would that be?
I would caution that if we're saying you can't do it in the future, you shouldn't be doing it now.
Doing it now.
And
Exactly.
don't have
I mean,
anything in code to support us.
Right, it's gonna be looked at. Well, I don't know when the code, okay, all right, so by the time the code gets
We
cleaned
don't have
up-
anything in code to support us saying you can't do it now. So I don't think we can.
So pretty much she can keep doing that then is what we're saying.
until the code is cleaned up.
Until the code is.
And it could be cleaned up either way. It could be cleaned up to
I mean,
allow it or
that
not
could be
allow it.
said for
All of
that could be said for all of the. I mean, that could be said for any donations that we think in the future we may not accept but are accepting now. So I'm hesitant to single out one campaign
Okay.
without looking at all of them.
Mhm.
Because again, it's not so much in these reports, but in past reports, we've had similar situations where it's kind of like, you know, maybe moving forward, we're not going to accept this, but again, for now we are.
Okay,
That came up a lot in the last election in terms of things like paying for food at public events and things like that. Is that considered a campaign event or a
Right.
campaign expense or not?
right. Similar with that inaugural ball ticket. You know, there was a question on that too. So, and we let it go.
Right. Yeah.
How-
So I mean, your point I think is well taken, Debbie, but we're kind of hampered by
Here we go again, that
what we-
dang
what-
code.
Those laws.
Okay, well, this is fantastic. We're moving forward, I believe. So the motion had been
I
passed.
think you guys are all beginning to understand more why we have this. All right, so we voted on it. Are we good, Regina? I think we lost her.
Yeah, there's-
No, you didn't finish your vote on the analysis because I need
Yeah,
a vote
that's what I
to
thought.
approve the analysis by date.
Okay, so the motion was, now is there, because I know Debbie, you asked a question in the middle of
We
this.
we have to make a motion.
Okay, so,
Yep,
have
so
to
is there a
make-
motion?
Yeah.
so the motion's made. I'll second.
Who is it made by?
Well,
I thought
Oh,
Debbie
yeah,
made it.
I'll make the motion, that the, wait, what were you?
The analysis, that we're approving of the analysis and that we're gonna notify the
Right,
candidate.
right, oh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
I make the motion that the candidates be notified, of the, current status of the analysis of their reports as discussed in tonight's meeting.
And that we also approve of the analysis. We also,
That's what we need.
that's-
We need to approve what we discussed.
yeah, we gotta
All
make
right.
sure it's,
I make the motion that we approve
The
the
analysis.
analysis of the candidate reports as discussed in tonight's meeting.
all
I
right,
second.
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
I believe Eileen said aye.
And
Yeah,
that's
so-
enough for you, Regina, to send a letter.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Wonderful.
I'm actually gonna send the analysis that Eileen's gonna provide me with.
Right. I'll clean this one up based on our discussion.
Now, I know Debbie, you mentioned before about the analysis. I think we already mentioned it, but candidates were a little bit, when we got that response about how the analysis should not be sent to everybody, we've already rectified that. It's not going to be, we already talked about the load. We're not sending individual letters with individual.
We already decided
Okay.
that.
Yeah, that's why I was make sure that we are clearing that up. That's not, because I know what the issue with her. Okay, so moving forward then, with the request for forgiveness late fees.
We already
We did it already.
We already,
We said
Yeah, I
no.
know we kind of, but we didn't get to that part of the agenda. We already discussed it, but we didn't necessarily. So we are just saying no to
We are-
late fees because we got.
You voted. You
we
voted. not
already
to-
voted. It's already been taken care of.
Okay,
Mhm.
so let's
You-
move forward then we're done. We've made it. I just want to follow. Okay, we made it to the adjournment. So is there a motion to adjourn?
Is there any other discussion? Are there any other discussion or items? I don't
Yeah,
have
is there
any.
yeah, I didn't have. Is there any other, Debbie, did you have any other? No?
Nope, not for tonight.
Okay, we'll just wait for the city to send out the reminders to everyone. We'll be doing our personal legwork and then, is there a motion? Oh,
I'll
yes.
make a motion to adjourn at 8:24 PM.
Is there a second?